Hey guys, welcome to Hedge. You're speaking to Matt again, here to bring you another educational video. Now, before we begin, I just gotta say, you gotta watch this video to the end to get the full gist of the information I'm about to basically unload onto you. And I do gotta say one thing, this is not financial advice. We do not accept liabilities for losses that you may incur. And all these videos are here strictly for educational, research, and resource purposes. So with that in mind, you should be able to enjoy this video. So today we're going to be talking about the $1 trillion coin. What? Come on. Come on. You're thinking this guy's joking. I'm not. I wish I was. But sadly, I'm not. And I'm just going to say that is probably going to be a huge problem. And I'm going to explain that shortly. Let's put a pin in the problem so I can explain to you what it is. So, just looking at it from a regular perspective, the concept was introduced when they hit the last debt ceiling crisis of 2011, and they were like, listen, Congress and all these guys, they might not necessarily agree with printing more money, but guess what? Technically, it's the issuance of paper currency that's subject to various accounting and quantity restrictions, whereas platinum coinage is not. And that's what it is. The $1 trillion coin is a platinum coin that they're going to be using to raise the debt ceiling without people's permission. Crazy. That's fucking whack. Sorry to say it. Because at that point, it's like they're saying, hey, the money printer's broken because we print so much. But now we're going to come up with coins to come up with the solution for that. And they're like, don't worry, it's just going to be used to pay the debt. Well, you're adding that into the money supply, it's going to have to go somewhere, right? And the reason they never did it was because they realized that that's going to cause inflation. Whoa, who would have thought that that would cause inflation? $1 trillion in a coin that's untraceable, that you could put wherever you want. Guys, come on. You really think it's going to infrastructure? You know 100% that once those coins come into action, people are going to be receiving them, and then there's no tracing what happens with the money afterwards. There's a reason they're doing that. Because if they have to print the money, they have to explain where it went. But a coin, it's the same idea as handing someone a brick of gold. Good luck tracing a brick of gold. You're not going to. And this is a serious issue. Because this is going to be, in my opinion, this is, if this passes, that's going to be the final nail in the coffin of the US dollar. So, you have this untraceable coin now worth $1 trillion. You expect me to believe that it's going to go to infrastructure? Come on. It's not likely. Now, more or less, what the concept is that when no one can no one could agree to the terms of, let's say, raising the debt ceiling, because platinum and bullion are subject to different laws than actual currency and notes, technically the reserve could print it, and because it's the Federal Reserve, it counts. So it's like they're giving a reason to print without even needing anyone's permission. Here's what's interesting. Basically, it's like they already produce 1 ounce platinum eagles, and there's no shortage of platinums in the banks, platinum blanks, because they're already in stock, which means that it's not even scarce. They're basically just getting ready to print as many of these as possible. And why it matters is because time is running out on basically figuring out what to do in this scenario. And they're saying that $1 trillion coin could be deployed to bridge any gap between the money running out and the debt ceiling being raised. So it's almost as if they're saying we're running out of money so fast that we're going to have to print this coin because it's the only solution, because we don't even need to come up with a solution, because this is just something we could do and not have to think about it. So basically, even if Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, has no intention of minting such a coin, there's no reason for her not to quietly instruct the mint director to take those steps in a day or two in advance. At that point, the coin could be struck within minutes at the West Point Mint, and then it could be physically deposited in the New York Fed. That's only a short helicopter ride away. And then voila, we bought ourselves the equivalent of $1 trillion increase in the debt limit without any impact of inflation, says Deal. So basically, what they're saying is that if they print money in a coin that's untraceable that they could circulate amongst themselves, the government, it doesn't affect inflation. You're expanding the money supply, but that doesn't cause inflation. That's economists. Economists have fancy degrees to rob your money and tell you that they're not robbing it. That's like the next level of fucked. For me, the way I see it is, if this officially becomes a thing, watch how many of these coins they're going to print. The U.S. debt's going to hit 100 trillion at that rate, because guess what? They won't need the Treasury, or they won't need the Senate to vote on anything. They'll just do it. And do you really think that the people in power are just going to put it into infrastructure? Something like that? No. Don't be surprised when you start seeing the money supply expanding, the inflation hitting, and then not being able to account for those trillions of dollars. I wouldn't even be surprised if one of those $1 trillion coins goes to another island labeled almost Epstein 2.0. Because it's that fucking corrupt, what they're about to do. And I could see it definitely putting an end to the US dollar, because if they are secretly printing $1 trillion coins, because realistically, something like that, there's not something you would even see. It would just be kind of happening. If they started doing that, people would just go into their grocery store and one day see the price of bread at like $10,000, simply because, guess what? The money isn't worth shit. That coin is going to be the beginning of, let's say, the Venezuelan style collapse, where your money's worth shit. But guess what? That coin, it's worth the platinum. It's worth the $1 trillion. Doesn't matter if bread's $1 million. If you have a $1 trillion fucking coin, the people with the money printer don't care what the price of bread's going to be, because they're not affected. They're not working class. They're the ones printing the money. They're literally just spitting money out, and we're going to pay for it. This is the next level of corruption. Like, I've seen openly corrupt governments globally, but this is so openly corrupt that I'm actually disgusted in where we're about to go. Now, basically, this is just like this is Investopedia's take on it. They're saying, like, basically it was a strategy that was proposed in 2011 as a potential alternative to raising the debt ceiling. But then after several high-profile proponents of the idea, it was eventually rejected in 2013 by the Treasury Department and Federal Reserve officials. Probably because they realized that that's a really slippery slope to basically be able to print the money supply without anyone's permission. Not only that, but like I said, it is a coin. How are you going to make sure that that coin actually goes to where it's got to go? Where are we going to trace that? It's literally a platinum coin with $1 trillion face value. Like, someone could take that coin, say, yeah, it's going for infrastructure, it's going for this, it's going for that, and then just go buy an island, or buy this, or buy that, or buy Bitcoin. I wouldn't even be surprised if they start inflating the dollar to the point where it becomes inflatable into a Bitcoin, meaning that this is potentially even the beginning of them printing the money supply into sats. Because if you look at Bitcoin, it's divisible by 8, and they could add more decimals. I wouldn't be surprised if you see those coins becoming the beginning of sats on a higher level, and a repricing of the dollar and its actual value against a mathematically sound system. That's what I'm thinking. So basically the idea is that they would be it's just a theoretical, they're going to do it for sure. It's a theoretical idea for reducing the federal debt. But here's the thing that's interesting. You're going to reduce the federal debt by printing money. When's the last time this happened? I'll tell you, World War II, Germany, right before they did the Holocaust. They were at that point. People were literally running around with wheelbarrows full of money trying to buy bread. The people thought they were getting rich, and hyperinflation, like it was hitting them. They're like, oh, I'm selling my house for $1 million. I'm rich. They weren't rich. They gave away their assets basically to banks and governments because they thought they were getting rich, and then the whole country got fucked. And what happens if they collapse the dollar by buying everything with $1 trillion coins? Eventually, you're going to be taking the money supply and using it against the people. It's like they're literally weaponizing the money supply, or about to weaponize the money supply, to turn you into slaves forever. You know, imagine you work a whole day for a loaf of bread because these fucking guys decide that's what they want to do. That's what you could be potentially looking at. Like, this is serious. This is a big issue. You know, and the only thing that they could say is it's made with high quality platinum. Fine. But go find an ounce of platinum that's worth $1 trillion. You won't. You can't. It's not possible. It's almost like they're telling you that the value of the dollar is going to go infinite against precious metals and assets. That's literally what they're telling you when they mint a coin like this. Because they're like saying like, hey, it's dollars, it's $1 trillion, but it's a platinum coin at the end of the day. What is the face value of that coin? The melting value. Basically, they're telling you the dollar is going infinite against precious metals and assets like property and food and even Bitcoin at that point, because it's an asset. It's a scarce asset. Some people might believe in the system mathematically more so than others. So you could probably understand my disdain for this coin because of how quickly it could accelerate the process into a depression if we allow it to become something that's normal. You know, if they print one, that's fine. But the reality is this. They might not get their infrastructure bills because spending between $6 and $10 trillion is not necessarily in the budget right now. Not because it's not in the budget, but because of how it's being approached. One-time spending. But then the thing is when you print that much money, the cost of goods go up. Look at the price of lumber during COVID. So let's say you decide to do all this beautiful infrastructure project. Guess what? You printed the money supply. So that means as the years go by, the prices of the goods that you need to build all these infrastructures and all these improvements, guess what? Those prices go up. So you need to print more money. And that was basically one of the main reasons why they proposed not doing it, because they're like, that's going to cost in the long run. We can't afford to do it like that, because if we do, we'll be constantly chasing down inflation to basically repair. And I don't know if you guys seen, but Montreal is an example of that, where they're like, hey, we're going to spend this much on infrastructure, and then every year they manage to go over budget, because we can't be on budget somehow. But the thing is that becomes open corruption. Like, that's the next level. I don't even want to say socialism or this or that, because like, that's just corrupt. They'd be taking socialism, saying you got to pay your taxes so everyone could enjoy things. But here's the thing. If the money doesn't go where it's supposed to go, they're literally just taking your money and your purchasing power and telling you it's okay because we're smarter than you and we deserve your money more than you do, even though you work and pay our salaries working for the government. That's basically what they're telling you. Now, that's more or less the understanding of this $1 trillion coin and the legal loophole of how precious metals technically do not fall under the same laws as legal tender and, you know, Federal Reserve notes. Now, you know, they said that distributing such a high value coin presumably will produce inflation. No shit. No fucking shit. You expand the money supply $1 trillion at a time. Let's say you decide I'm going to just make 10 of those coins. You've increased the money supply 25% and it's already been expanded 30 to 40%. They're telling you groceries are going to be going up 30% yearly possibly. And they're like, let's print more. And people are like, it's going to good things. Don't worry. What are those good things? How do I know that the people in charge aren't going to take that coin and just give it to one of their own people? It's even more corrupt than printing money, because at least if you print money, you could see, okay, money went out here, money went out there, money went here. You could see, okay, accounts moved it. It's not transparent because you don't know where it's moving, but you know it was moved. So at least you could ask the question, the fundamental question. But a coin? That just leaves so many opportunities for back-end deals. We might not even know what the real expansion of the money supply will be until all the coins are out of their pockets. And then by then, guess what? It's gone. And the US dollar and the people in the US, they suffer. And you know who suffers too? Europe. Because the largest economy backing Europe, guess what? The US dollar. So if the US dollar goes, so does Europe. And you know what's interesting is if China decides to dump the US debt US debt bonds and treasury bonds and all these like government bonds at the same time as this, America will burn. And that'll be a sad reality because the money will be worth nothing, and we will see another Germany situation in World War II. We'll see a Venezuelan situation. We'll see we'll see hyperinflation to a level that we won't even understand. You know, and then a new system is gonna have to be put in place. And my 2 cents is this: we're gonna have a system where it's likely gonna be barter. There's going to be barter involved in that reality. And the other thing is this. You have barter, precious metals, that's one section. Then there's the potential that maybe Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies could succeed simply because people have them and they'll accept them as a medium of exchange. Fine. Pricing goods in it won't make sense for a while, but eventually they'll get it. And then the alternative, which is the worst alternative, this is the scariest alternative, is that we allow the same people who ruined the system create central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, and then take control of the economy with a blockchain. And then that would be even more scary because that would create a hyper surveillance state. So we're at a really important point in society where if they fail, if they collapse the economy one more time, people are going to lose trust. It's up to us afterwards to take the money supply into our own hands by buying Bitcoin and crypto and putting it into, let's say, the laws of code, as opposed to putting it in the hands of the same people that are destroying everything. That will be the most important part of ourselves as a society, to make sure that we don't fall into the same trap. Because if they take control of the money supply again with blockchain money, you're not going to want that. They're gonna do a lot of things to the actual code of their CBDCs, and they will not make it in your favor. And it'll be a very ugly future if the banks take control over the money supply again using blockchain. We do not want that. It's either we have our own money that's made by the people through miners, through private companies and coders and people who are incentivized globally to keep the network running for their own good, but not even for their own good, because Bitcoin at that point is using the greed of the world to create a fair network, because everyone has their own interests in mind and they don't want to hurt everyone else because it would hurt them. Whereas if we give them the power back again, they'll continue doing what they're doing and they'll make it much worse. So guys, that's basically the gist of this video. I want you to like, comment, and subscribe. Stay tuned for our Patreon, Reddits, and all these other things that are coming very soon to you guys. They're all going to be launching at the 1,000 sub mark. I hope you enjoyed this video. Take care.